Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we've got a returning guest. AK, how we doing?
Great, Manny. How are you?
I'm good. I love how fired up we were before this. I can't wait.
A lot to be fired up about.
Exactly, and I think from what I've been seeing of you recently, it's really like one, I'm just a fan, and we've always had this conversation. I think when I first approached you to come on the podcast, we had a meeting. And like I've told this story to so many coaches about like coaches being coaches to coaches. And
Mm.
it's like you showed me like your legit whole program. Like you're at an SEC school, LSU, and you were just like, yeah, this is my program. Turn the screen around, there should be your program. I was like, fuck. Here's a quick word from our sponsor, Team Builder. I've personally been using Team Builder since 2022, and it's genuinely changed how I run primitive athletics. Writing programs, delivering them to the clients and athletes, tracking their progress, and it all lives in one place. My clients get their sessions on their phones. I see their progress, I get messages from them, and we are able to stay in constant contact and be able to track every single metric that I need. I spend less time on admin and more time actually coaching. Check out teambuilder.com, and if you use promo code PAChalkup altogether, you get 30-day free trial and you get access to the AMS system.
Yeah, and no secrets. Got no gatekeeping here. I think that's the detriment of this career. I think that's the detriment of this field is when people feel like they're doing something special. You can run my program. You can go ahead. You can copy paste my program. I share my programs on Instagram like every single day. I don't care. You can run my program. You're not going to get my results. You're not me. That's the difference between confident coaching, I think, and people who are scared and people who think that they're scared for being called out or they're scared that somebody's going to tell them they're wrong. You can tell me I'm wrong. That's okay. My results speak for themselves. I don't know if you saw all of our approach jumps today, but like my stuff talks for itself. So
I think something that you said during that post today about the approach to jumps and all that stuff was something that we touched on the last episode, and I strongly urge people listening in to go watch that one too. And it's having that relationship with your athletes that they know for like the first 5 to 6 weeks it's going to fucking suck.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
you mentioned in your story, they didn't want to jump, they don't want to jump, they're not going to get anywhere with their jump, but they show up anyways.
Hmm.
And then with like within the 6 weeks, you've seen massive increases in everyone, even vets, where it's like they've been doing this for a while and they're still
Yeah.
getting progression.
Yep. And what you have to remember too is again, context is king in all of those situations. We come off of an off season, and in an off season, what's my goal, right? My goal is we're building, right? So we're accumulating quite a bit of fatigue. Now at the off season, generally at the end of the spring, right? Most of my freshmen are jumping high, right? Neurological gains, right? I think you and I talked about that before too. Yeah, they can jump high, right? They could probably go smash their head into the wall 15 times a day, and that would probably make them jump higher. But I think what's really cool is that you take those numbers from the spring and then they kind of become irrelevant. For as far as trends go, right? I track them over time, but we scrap it because they go home for a few weeks. I don't know. I don't know if they do anything, to be honest with you. I assume they don't. Never assume they do my training plan that I have for them that I write up. But when they do come back, I reassess, right? I give them a week to kind of like get their feet underneath them and we take our reassessments. And when we do those things, there are things that are repeatable, right? There's things that we do all the time. I don't just have a testing day. That's goofy. I used to do that, right? Way back whenever. Back when I used to 1RM. Yeah, crazy. But that being said, you get to those times where we have 3 weeks now to get progress in, and then you get a week of rest, and then you have 3 more weeks. How do you maximize, right? I'm not just looking for outputs all the time. And it does, therefore, since I'm not just constantly looking to increase the number, it does dip, it does fall because we're accumulating fatigue, right? Because all these things are happening that I'm worried about tendon robustness, right? I'm worried about getting, their quads enough attention. And when we're getting their quads attention and we're focusing on eccentric loading or we're working on, different kinds of yielding or overcoming isometrics, we're not really jumping a ton. And then we get towards the end of the summer and I jump them a little bit more and I start giving them a little bit more exposure and we start loading just a little bit differently and we kind of get into that nice little speed strength block. And all of a sudden, boing, like they're going. And they all look at each other, like we started last week really is when it truly started. And they all look at each other and they're like, whoa, like I'm jumping so high. I'm like, I know, like, come on, like we're ready for this. So we had one touch just over 11 feet today. She touched 11 feet and half an inch. Yeah, that's like the 12s for the boys. That's up there, man. Like it's huge. And I spoke about this a little bit in my story today too, but it was just belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't believe in her, if she didn't believe in her, if there was one point in time that I looked at her and I saw some doubt, like we're not done. We're not doing it. We're done. So watching her progress through that and watching her get that today was,
Mm.
does it matter in the long term? No. Does it give her an insane amount of confidence? And do I really think she's touching more like 11, 11, 3, 11, 4 in the game? Absolutely. You guys see this girl chase down a set. It's crazy. She can get up there. But I suffice it to say, I I had a great summer with them, and they not only showed up and continued to grind when it got really hard, because it did get really hard. They did it with a smile on their face, and they did it with joy, and they showed up. And that's one of my biggest things. I would consider it a pillar in my career, is like joy has a place here.
Mm-hmm.
Joy has a place in your training. And when you can do that and you can allow people to show up as themselves, even if it's goofy and weird and, all over the place, like then you've got a high performing environment.
100%. I think as well, like the belief is a really important thing, and sometimes your belief as a coach has to be stronger than theirs to carry them through. An example of this is like I've got a power lifter, so I do have to 1RM her. I'm sorry, coach.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of your job. That's kind of her sport. Yeah. Mm.
But we spent 2 blocks, so 12 weeks, and I think the first block we focused predominantly on pin squats and
Mhm.
just like coming out of that bomb phase. So it was that for squat and bench. Then block 2 we focused on banded work, so like attached to bands. So for 12 weeks she didn't see any progressions in her like overall
Yeah.
squat.
It's just like, you're burying me, dude.
And she was hating it. Like I'm pretty sure I saw a tear when she hit her 1RM, because we tested after the second block, and she went up by like, what did she do? I think it was just shy of 10 kilograms increase,
Wow.
and I was like, you just have to trust me.
It's hard. It gets hard. I can't imagine. Like I'm with you though. I've seen the tears, but I haven't seen the tears because of lifting. I've seen the tears because of the jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When it, again, what it is, the sport, when it correlates directly to the sport and it starts going poorly, it will wreck. It will wreck some of them. And then I've got some that are just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Like, this is part of the training process. And they're like, oh, good, mature, all right, nice, I guess. And then you've got some that are invested their heart and their soul and their identity into it. And of course they're going to be upset. Duh. Like,
That's
and
the whole
then
personality. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's just, okay, cool. How am I gonna be there for them and show up for them in that moment and still be able to connect with them and get them to do what we need to do? And somehow, don't know.
Yeah. I
Here we
also
are.
want to bring it back to a point that you made, and it's the jumping off competition and non-competition,
Mm-hmm.
which are very two different things. And as soon as there's a competitive element to it, athletes just switch.
Mm-hmm.
And I once heard this phrase, and it like I've used it ever since. And it's like when an athlete is jumping and they think they've reached their mark, it's adding in and some. So jump as far as you can or as high as you can, and then some.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm really big on like these little phrase switches to get them to do something. It's like when people are saying, "Oh, I can't do that," I was like, "Yeah, you can't do that yet." And it's a powerful thing, and I love seeing the competitiveness, because like I've got a program for like 4 to 6 year olds and then 7 to 11 year olds. Today's episode is sponsored by Eccentric. You all know I'm a big fan of keeping training simple and effective, and flywheel training fits that perfectly. Now, I've been using Eccentric K-Box since 2021, and it's one piece of equipment, endless exercises, and resistance that adjusts to you automatically. However much effort you put in is what you get out. No guessing the weight, no loading plates, just move. And the flywheel matches your effort perfectly. Check out the K-Box or the K-Pulley at the link in the description.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as there's racing involved,
Oh yeah,
switch.
going down,
It's like
man.
it's a biting, and it's the like the face changes. I'm like, fuck yes.
Oh, that, just so you know, that works on the 18 to 22-year-olds too. It
100%.
absolutely
Oh,
works.
100%.
They go hard, man.
Something also, we're 10 minutes in, but for everyone that perhaps hasn't seen you, which would be stupid not to, if you give us a little breakdown on who you are.
That was funny. Okay. My name is Ashley Kovaleski. I go by AK. I don't know if there's anybody in this field that calls me Ashley. But I've been at LSU now. This is going into my fourth year. Been with volleyball and women's tennis for the longest tenure. Previously, in other lives and kind of at LSU, I've been with baseball in the past, softball programs across the SEC, what used to be the Pac-12, Big Ten. I've kind of done little hops here and there from program to program while kind of coming up and doing my thing. But overhead and rotational sport is the way that I like to frame it as part of my niche now because it's very true. So overhead and rotational athletes is kind of my bag as a former javelin thrower. I think I can really kind of give a unique perspective, and it's been a time, let me tell you. So just recently made the jump into socials. So that's what you're talking about. And it's gone. There. It's gone. I've only jacked around with Instagram, and I don't think I'll expand to any other social media platform just yet. But
Don't do it. Do
yeah,
not
tell
do
me
it.
what. It's a lot. There's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions.
So opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Doesn't
Hey,
necessarily mean they all work. So this is again, I'm strictly Instagram. Don't do TikToks. Don't
no,
do
it was a
Facebook.
waste.
Don't do Threads. Don't do Twitters or X's. Yeah, it's a waste of time.
It seems like it.
But something that I've been really liking seeing is like we kind of touched on this the last episode, but you've been posting a lot about like your ISOs or coming out of ISOs. If you can like break down your principles and methods through that and whys and how you kind of then progress it into their sport and making sure that they've got what they need to for when they're competing.
Well, if we think about it just from like a physiological standpoint, every single action, me sitting here up and sitting up talking, every single dynamic action starts and ends with an isometric or is trying to return to an isometric. We brace, we move, right? There is tension in the system before we ever actually create dynamic movement. And that happens every day, multiple times a day, whether we realize it consciously or not. So why wouldn't we be actively seeking to train that system? And for athletes, in my opinion, it's the biggest benefit or one of the biggest benefits is just learning how to brace. So different types of isometrics will teach you those things, right? We've got overcoming, pushing against an immovable object or pulling, whatever it is, you against an immovable object, yielding, where you are yielding really a load to gravity, or it could be your body weight, right? Whatever. And then you've got quasi, where we may be doing tempos in both directions, right? We might be doing different types of tempo. We might be doing interset tempo changes, where we introduce a certain tempo on the first half of the set, an isometric in the middle, and then a different tempo on the second half of the set. But what I think that the biggest thing for me and why I love isometrics so much is the simplicity. And I think that when we seek out the simplest answer first or the simplest way first, we're bound for more success. So isometrics allow me to teach positions, right? Really, really easily, really, really simply. And I was never taught that. I don't know about anybody else, but I was never ever taught, coming up in this field that I could teach an athlete positions and how to lower into a squat or a bench or anything with different yielding isos and or tempo, right? Whatever. And really use that in order to learn, right? To ingrain a motor pattern in somebody's system. And so that to me is one of the most valuable things is that it really allows me to teach better, right? It allows me to get out of a movement exactly what I want to get out of it or lack of movement, right? Whatever. So it's something that I start off with very early. Like we're talking day one, and there are different isometric flows that I go through, like single leg iso flows that really impact not only just their balance and proprioception, but the ankle and foot complex, right? If you've seen, that's another thing that I put up on socials is that I have a single leg iso flow that they'll go through. And no, it's not, oh, my glutes cramping. Oh, my quads are so tired. It's like my foot, like AK, my foot, because they're constantly fighting for balance while they're changing positions. And again, increasing proprioception, yay, balance, whatever, right? There are all these things that they can give us that I think that we totally undervalue. And then you can kind of go into the volleyball side of things for me and talk about tendon robustness and stiffness and their just basic ability to extend health and longevity in whatever sport you've chosen. I think had I known a lot about them in the days when I was throwing, I would have been doing them a lot more. And like I use the example of a pitcher for baseball. You don't want to just have to constantly rely on a whip-like velocity to get you into layback. You want to be able to control layback, right? You want to be able to do all these things. And so we can use isometrics to do that and other forms, right? I'm not trying to be an isometric evangelist over here and tell everybody that it's just like we just need to train ISOs. I just think that they're underutilized in a lot of systems. And I say that because I've come up through several and saw them very, 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 very rarely in my come up. So those people who capitalized on them early and continue to use them in a period and a way that I think comes and goes throughout the course of a season, even when it comes to like recovery, which is something that I also do, I think those people are a step ahead.
I think that's the thing to consider though, is like movement doesn't just happen concentrically or eccentrically. And I think a lot of time we're spending on that end tier of like, we just need them explosive or we just need them strong, which you could do both with the isometrics.
Yeah.
Like, you can build strength and you can become more powerful by being able to absorb that, hold it, and then go. And I think that's something that I've been kind of exploring. It's like this cowbell curve of, okay, if isometrics are on one end, ballistic movements as on the other end, where is my athlete landing in terms of like their buckets? Are they lacking somewhere, or are they really good at something else? And like, how can we start chopping and changing these bucket levels? Now, not all buckets need to be full. We also need to consider the sport, right? I'm not going to 120 degrees squat a basketball player when they're
What? They don't
jumping
like that?
when they're jumping at quarter squats, right? It's fucking stupid. Will they need to hit it? Sure, but not always. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
I
more
think
about
there's a time and a
winding them.
place, right? Yeah, like you're saying, there's a time and a place. And I think that's the thing that we have to change over time, right? When we are using or when I'm using isometrics, I use them year round in some form or another, but the way that I use them changes, right? Whether they're paired with dynamic movement, because I don't think there is a substitution for dynamic effort
Mhm.
and truly sprinting, right? Doing things fast. So we do, right? But I also believe that there is a very simple way to get qualities that you're chasing from eccentric and isometric work that get lost in the noise sometimes, especially as we get into season. And I think there's a place for those things, especially when it comes to recovery, especially when it comes to taking care of tired and beaten bodies. More concentric output is not the answer. And that's the thing that I've had several people approach me about over the past few months of like, hey, training volleyball in season, we've had a lot of knee, we got a lot of jumpers knee stuff. And we got a lot of lower ankle, ankle foot complex issues. I said, cool. Can you walk me through your in season program? Yeah, we're jumping. We're doing banded jumps. We're box jumping. We're doing, whoa. Why? Are they not jumping a lot in the gym? Like, are they only playing defense? Like, what's going on? No, practices are normal. So you're taking everything that they're doing in there and then you are amplifying it in the weight room. I'm not saying that everything has to be the reverse in the weight room. I'm not saying that at all. Do I think there still have to be days where we do see that plyometric action? Yes, absolutely. Right? High level, under load, whatever. But you gotta watch it. Like the exposures, you do not need that many. Like it's a wild and crazy thought to hear some of the things that people have been told, and it's no fault of anybody's. It's just people have been you've been brought up in that. Yeah, volleyball players need to jump more. Well, actually, yeah, everybody's knees are jacked up. They can't walk right. Their Achilles they're flared. They're killing them. Okay, well, what are we missing here? And I think because when they go to the ATs and the PTs and they do rehab, what do? Isometrics, right? Eccentrics, controlled ranges. They access ranges that they don't normally access. So why that hasn't been a concept that's been brought into the weight room more on my end previous to this, I don't know, right? But I got there sooner rather than later. So that's good. And it's good for everybody. Good for the availability of the team.
So I'm going to presume you've been subject to program analysis where coaches absolutely demolish your programs.
I and that's again to each their own. My stuff would not work for everybody. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
right now. Like that,
So
the things that I do absolutely wouldn't work for everybody. But yeah, I've had people tell me I'm an idiot and
no,
and
not
that's fine.
not in that sense. I'm talking like mentors going through your programs and
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That too. That kind of program analysis too.
yeah. That's what I mean. Again, we've spoke offline about people talking about our shit. That's a
Nah,
separate. That doesn't need attention.
a
But
different conversation altogether. That needs alcohol.
yes, a lot. But I once was in a program analysis or review, and the coach asked me such a simple question, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't actually know." And it's like, how many jumps are there? How many contacts have you got with the floor on this program? And it's like, how much of it do they do in their sport? Count them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not going to be perfect every time, obviously, but like
No,
roughly on average, how many are they doing, and how many are you exposing them to? And I'm like, fuck. And
it's a
the
great
thing is, like,
question.
that's not only like, so this is a hot take that I
Oh,
love.
bring it to me. I love hot takes.
So speed training is one thing, plyometrics and explosive movement is a different thing. But if we look at the definition of plyometrics, sprinting fits into it, right?
It does.
So when we're considering these volume accumulations, that is something that we need to get account, right? Like, how many steps does it take to get from point A to point B? How much load is that taking on their ligaments, on their tendons? Like, what's actually happening during these sprints? So it's like, when we're creating these programs, like, we need to know what's happening on a sport level and then a weight room level. So it's
Hmm.
like, sprinting should be accounted for. And again,
Oh, absolutely.
I don't necessarily love when S&C coaches call themselves sprint experts. Just be
Speed
a fuck.
coaches.
Yeah,
I'm a speed coach.
just be a sprint coach then. It's fine. Like, you're saying you're a
Oh,
sprint coach, right? You're not an S&C then. That fucking AK. I'm telling you.
that's yours. That's your trigger. Ooh, ooh. See, I see both sides, and I think I've seen some really great strength coaches that coach speed
So
work really well,
we need
but
to be
I
good
know
at.
what you're talking
We
about.
need to be good at all of it. We can't.
Hmm.
It's like when S&C coaches are also sports scientists.
Yeah, no.
Like, you're
I'll
dealing
never
with
wear
kids.
that. I'll never claim that hat.
You're just dealing. So I had a really good conversation with Mike Stone, Tim Sukumel, and Alex Borgs.
It was awesome.
Tim is. He's actually coming on soon.
I love him. Tim
We
Sukmal's
do.
awesome.
So every year for the past 3 years, we've seen each other in some country in Europe, and like after each trip, we sit and do a podcast yearly. And I fucking love Tim. Tim and Shanna, shout out. Uh,
They're freaking so cool. They
yeah,
both came to LSU when National was in New Orleans. He had
nice.
texted me and I was like, dude, if y'all want to come on, like, come on, come down and visit. And they came and I just took them around and got to hang out with them for a couple hours. They're so great.
Yeah, no, truly they are. I think so. Tim was speaking in Leeds. Shannon was supposed to come, but her visa didn't come through in time, so
The
she
worst.
was stuck. Anyways, we were talking about the difference. So my degree is sports science with an
Hmm.
emphasis in essence.
Hmm.
I know that in the US is a little bit different because you go kinesiology way, which is just slightly different than sports science. We deal a lot with the data side of tests, biomechanics, physiology. We look a lot of the testing. And obviously Mike Stone is sports science. But when we actually see the job description for a sports scientist, it's an S&C with data analysis.
Hmm.
It's not actually sports science. And I think, and again, it's something that we're going to come on to, but it's like, what is our role? And like, are we actually just doing our role, or are we like wearing different hats?
Absolutely not. We're made to do so much more, and we're expected to do so much more. And so that again, we've talked offline about like pay discrepancies. Talk about a pay discrepancy. You would never hire an accountant and also tell them that they're responsible for like maintenance and inventory. Something that is totally not their job that they would have to literally learn how to do overnight. You got your, I'm gonna even make it closer together, accountant and marketing, right? You got your accountant. Yeah, their office is next to each other. Yeah, they probably talk about the same stuff, but like these are two totally different jobs. These are two totally different degrees. These are two totally different things. So, what in the world are we doing expecting strength coaches to not only manage data, which that's hard enough as it is, but now we're expecting them to take it, interpret it, and re enter it back into your own program? And it's an entire another job. So now take exercise selection out of it. You're talking way more than just, hey, this said this, so this. It's not that simple. It's this said this, so consider this. And then when you consider this, make sure that you observe and see if that's actually what's happening or see if you got a bad test and what's the trend line look like. And great, there are so many great people in this field who can do both. I refuse. I try, but I refuse to ever be able to call myself a sports scientist or to say that I wear that hat Because I don't. And I don't try to because I will do the best I can with what I've been told that's necessary and what's needed from me. And I've grown a lot because of it, but I am constantly pushing my superiors for us to get a sports science department within Olympic sports at LSU because we need it. It's the data analysis is so far out of everybody's hands that it's got to change because yes, there are too many hats, but it's not like wearing a hat. It's like wearing a cinder block tied around your neck and being stuck in a 3 foot puddle. You're okay until you're not.
No, I agree, and I think it's something that again we'll just get into it because it's kind of what we're talking about. But like this strong act, and I think it's again I'm as we're filming this episode, I'll have already posted the strong act episode. But it's like it's going to be so crucial to what we do as professionals because of it really being defined. Like you don't have to tell ATs or PTs that hey, you actually need to go to the weight room and program a fucking 6 week block for them to develop strength.
Hmm.
Their name is protected. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So it's like we're in the same office. Like when I was at UW, our offices were on the right, theirs was on the left. And guess what? We spoke to them every day. Given that's football, there's a little bit more money. Yes, fine. But that needs to be a priority in all programs, not just ones with money. And like
Mm.
when you are talking about LSU, you're talking to SEC, you're talking like creme de la creme. And it's like, you don't have science?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because for certain areas, there are people who have tried to dabble, right? You've got ATs that really love it, so they're trying to learn about it and help. You've got PTs, right? A couple PTs that have learned about it and really love to help. But that is not what they were brought up to do. That's not their profession. It's not that what they went to school for, right? They don't even have any kind of certification in it, which there is a certification in pool, right? But that a certification does not a sports scientist make, just like it doesn't make a strength coach. Your
Mm-hmm.
certification doesn't make your strength coach. Your abilities and your actual the ability to practically apply what you know does. So I think that, yeah, there are some very high level programs. We're not the only one. LSU is not the only one that doesn't have a sports science department or access to great sports scientists, but it is a glaring issue that I see across collegiate S&C, no matter the level. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're investing in wearables and you're getting data from GPSs and or like a Whoop wearable, I know a lot of programs that use that, then you need somebody outside of the platform itself to actually break it down and tell you what the heck it's doing and what the heck it means.
I think you bring a really good point just now about outside of the program, as in like outside of the app, outside of their dashboard per se.
Yep,
Because like
has to be.
so here's the thing that people don't always understand about data gathering and statistics. Their averages from like Gen Pop.
Hmm.
They've not got Olympians or like elite athletes taking the tests or strapping them up to wearables for a prolonged period of time. So it's like that data is fine for a general population person, but when we've got athletes, it's kind of like saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to put the same fuel in that I do in F1 car in my fucking Toyota whatever." And it's just not the same.
Not at all.
Like it's really hard because like you need people who understand not only the individual athlete, like have they had contact with them, is this a normal score for them, like so Tom Newman had this great story when he was at Yale, and a sports scientist runs into the head offices to the head coach and is like, whoa, this athlete hit a new PB during the game while sprinting. He got up to like 22, 23 miles per hour. And they looked at the timestamp and they were like, yeah, that's when he was getting carted off by a gator.
Not wild.
And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that tracks actually. No, good point.
That's fucking
Oops.
nuts. To another point that you made, I've actually, so like I was speaking in Italy a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
and there was three like physiotherapists getting accredited in S&C, and I asked them like what made you want to do this? And it was like it's gaps in my knowledge. And I was like, no. And I think we are getting a lot more of that. And again, it's so hard to be an S&C coach that physiotherapists and everything else are trying to see like is what they're talking about like right?
Right.
What are they doing?
Right. It's true though, and I think that I had a really great experience speaking at the Louisiana Athletic Trainers Conference It was their statewide conference here, oh, I don't know, back in June. And that's what they were missing. It was just like, it just kind of cover the gaps a little bit. Hey, bridge that gap and tell us, give us an idea of like what you think we need to know or what we can do when there are places that it's just an AT
Mm-hmm.
and a football coach, like there are places where that is still the case. So giving everybody tools, again, I said this to you offline, but like I am an educator that happens to coach. That's how I feel. I'm very passionate about educating people as to the why. I don't just want to hold information over people's heads and be like, well, I'm the only one that knows this. Like, come get it. No, I want you to know, and then I want you to decide how to take that information and disseminate it within your own system. So when it comes to teaching and talking to people that are outside the profession and really pulling them in and trying to get them to understand what it is that we're doing and why, you can't talk in these big, complex, crazy scenarios. You can't talk about force plates. You can't talk about the high cost VBT. You can't talk about all these complexities. You need to talk about the simplest and the most low cost solutions. And not to mention, the simplest thing, if it works, why don't you just do it? Why does it have to be this crazy chase the next sexy metric thing like, well, this thing's out now, so I need to use it. Why? Why? The simplest method, if it does and it has been proven to work, which generally speaking they do it, right? Low cost, high value. So isometrics frame fit that for me. Gameplay fits that for me. A lot of partner work fits that for me. A lot of ground-based work fits that for me. Like back to the basics, essential movement patterns fit that for me. It takes a little bit of creativity in some spaces, but altogether possible. So when you're talking about all these other people wanting to know what we do, we can't try to hold something up to them and be like, well, we're smart too, and we know how to use this technology, and we know how to use all this stuff. Yeah, no, but I can get somebody better without all that shit. So that speaks to who I am as a coach and why, again, why I'm in this profession, why I do what I do, and at the level that I'm able to do it at. And then to give somebody else understanding and to be able to explain everything that we're doing in layman's terms, like I'm talking to an 11-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and have them understand it, that's true dissemination of knowledge to me.
And that goes for athletes as well. Like
Without a doubt.
a lot of coaches love to over. So there's two factors to this that I truly believe, and I'll die on this hill. Because there's job scarcity and it's a competitive field for positions. We like to demonstrate that we are the key holders to this piece. Right? We're like we're the only ones that know how to do this and get athletes from here to here. So you need to keep me on. And it's like I've had coaches that I just wanted to like pick their brain and talk to them about what they do. Again, I'm private. I don't care about your job. Never will. I don't give a fuck. So I've asked for them and they're like, no, no thanks. I'm like, sick.
Bro, you clearly got something going on that we don't know. And
Yeah.
again, that's not true, right? That to me, the gatekeeping bullshit, like I
So
said, I don't believe in it.
I've actually been like hyperfixating on like the earliest strength training writings and what they're talking about. So I've got Charles Atlas.
Oh my gosh.
So this was it was a period between 1927 to like, no, that might be wrong. It was early 19s. This is Sandow, sorry. And this one is 18, does have a date.
How to get jacked and be a model for statues.
Precisely, 1897. And it's strength and how to obtain it. Guess what they're talking about?
Heavy lifting.
Dynamic
ISOs.
efforts.
Are they really?
Legit,
Yeah.
legit. They're talking about ice baths and recovery.
Mm.
They're talking about like isometrics. Like it's the fucking simplest shit, and it's what you're talking about. It's like we've gone so fixated on like, no, I need to prove my worth because I need this job and they need
Yeah.
me, that we're like overcomplicating things where it's like a squat will work.
Yeah. And I can squat you 15 different ways and they're all going to work. Like that's,
Actually, on that
or they're not
too.
going to work.
But so I don't know if I spoke to you or Maddie about it. I definitely spoke to Madison Peely about it, but I can't remember if I spoke to you about it. But there was a coach I dropped in on a session, and instead of back squatting, I think this was in Italy as well. Instead of back squatting, the coach had them go off big plyo boxes and just single leg like toe drag down just before the floor and then stand up. And the students afterwards were like, why is he doing that instead of squats? It's like, well, one, I can't answer that properly because I don't know what phase they're in. But if we look at the movement, it's a squat.
Single leg squat. That's exactly what it is.
And it's like, so I don't have the context behind it, but that's a squat pattern.
It is.
So,
It is. And that's the thing that's why I say what I say is like, again, if you want to look at my summer program, I think don't know, very few of my 18 ever chose to put a barbell on their backs. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it that way. It doesn't have to be done like that. That if you're really looking to develop the quad, which is what we claim that we're looking to do, back squatting is actually not the best way to do it. It's just not, right? Because there's, again, we all know that at this point, what fatigues first? Your back, right? You're done. You're smoked. So I think that, again, the simplest way, it'll do it. And if you can work, I mean, Mike Boyle does so much on this. I respect him an immense amount. And there are things we agree on, things we disagree on, and who cares, right? He's an incredibly great coach. And again, all the single leg work, it will in fact work, right? And sport, let's talk about sport happening on two legs, rarely, right? A lot of it is this unilateral movement. Does that make back squatting bad? No, but it makes it a poor tool to select to get a job done or to get an adaptation that you're not actually able to get. And that's how I feel about the Olympic lifts also, is if it takes me 4 months to teach you how to do this well, the time to get adaptation has passed, right? I didn't have that time to teach you that skill. Nobody, I would argue almost nobody has that time unless you have an athlete taking a gap year or whatever. But that's usually what I think. And that's, again, the simplest solution is often going to get you where you need to go. And it doesn't take burying anybody to do that.
yeah, no. So I do like back and front squats. Again, that's just me, and I do like Olympic weightlifting. But caveat is I have them as young children. And that's when I
Yeah,
start teaching them.
you need to teach. And that's great. And if I had an experienced one come in, heck yeah, I'd let them start, I'd let them catch, do whatever. But we do hang clean pulls, we do hang clean high pulls, we do rhythm high pulls, we do narrow grip snatches, right? We do a plethora of derivatives. We don't traditionally, and we don't traditionally Olympic lift, and it
Yeah,
works for
so
me.
I think that's also where we need to differentiate sport from S&C.
Yeah.
Because like we kind of encompass two sports:
Mm,
Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting. Right, that's our
yeah.
main lifts, and
Hmm.
then there's derivatives. So, do I need deadlifts? Not really. Like, not really. Do I need squats? Yes. Do I need bench press? I need some pressing. So it's like we sometimes get too fixated on the big lifts, like the whole lifts, and
Hmm.
forget about like they're actually like competing in completely different sports. Like when we were talking about bench and I need them to be explosive, I don't give a fuck if their hips come off the bench.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if they don't fully go to depth every single time. Like it's all right. They're not going to get 3 red lights.
Yeah, right.
So it's like
It's a different conversation. Again, like I think we mentioned this offline too, like context is king in everything that we're doing, right? There is a time in sport for partials. There is a time, in training for partials. And so, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the time it gets hung up on what it looks like. People get
mhm,
hung up on what it looks like and how then they are perceived as a coach, which I have two different opinions about that as well. If you are coaching something with tempo or through full ranges, and they are not doing it with the prescribed tempo or through the fullest possible range for that athlete, coach it up. Oh my goodness. Coach it up. But then, on the other hand, when those times are not there and you're looking for them to just get a quality movement pattern, and you're telling me that the full depth, right, doesn't matter and there's no tempo, but I just asked them to go through it with control and no bounce, and that's what they're doing, fantastic, right? There's a time and a place for almost everything.
yes, and I think that's where a lot of people get wrong. I watched the video. I'm not going to mention this coach's name, but it was very tone deaf, like very, because it was talking about like young coaches and kind of, I don't know if this will give it away, but like kind of degrading them.
Hmm.
And that was like that is if our goal is to help coaches, that's probably the worst way to go about it. Whereas like the video is essentially telling them they knew fuck all, and the quality of conversations they have is what gives
Yeah,
them an
I
excuse.
now I know what we're talking about. So do you know what's funny though is that there are so many young great ones coming up that to me that's my focus.
Mm.
It's just really unfortunate because the shitty ones get a lot of the spotlight because they garner attention, because they go after some of the best around, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is shit and and who are you? Have you ever had a full-time job? Shut up. Don't speak unless you're spoken to." Like there are all these things where you're like, "Oh my gosh, like how in the world do you enter into a profession thinking that you know more than the people that have been in it for 20, 50, however many years, right?" Now, is there a time and a place, and is there a way, right, for you to enter in as a young professional and state your opinions? Absolutely. But you don't do it by discrediting others.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how that happens. If you believe something, stand 10 toes down. Absolutely. If you wouldn't do something, then don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no point in time where we need to degrade or demean people. We talk about not demeaning athletes. Why in the world would we demean other coaches? That's crazy. And if you want them to change, have a conversation. I've also,
Mm-hmm.
though, tried to have conversations with a few people that don't disagree with me, and they only want to have conversations in the comments. They don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to have a private conversation. And those are the people who are looking for attention, not actual connection. They're not looking to learn. They're just looking to get their 15 minutes of fame and jump. So,
I've got two stories for you at the end, but it's legit though. I think unless there's a click behind it, that not a lot of coaches want to carry on this conversation offline. And like I've offered to like let's jump on a
yeah,
call.
let's talk. Yeah. You don't like what I do? Let's talk about it. Crickets. Okay. So you
Yeah,
actually just don't know. Like, neat.
it's yeah. I think it's. I'm not gonna say this. I'll get in
It's
trouble.
something.
It's something.
It's something.
But it's, yeah, no, I think and again, we spoke about this offline as well. It's like, if we're claiming to be educators, we need to, like, talk to young coaches in a way that, it creates their next step, their next pathway. And I was having a conversation with someone from Team Builder, and they were like, "You've had a lot of new up and coming coaches on." Like, yeah, they need attention too. Like,
Hmm.
I could just fill it with like fucking great coaches, well known
Yeah.
coaches. But like that's not that fun all the time.
Well,
I
you're
could,
looking at the next generation. You're
yeah.
seeing the next great strength coach come across your page.
And like I've seen coaches go from my podcast to then like doing speaking engagements at like regional conferences, and I'm like, that's
Hmm.
fucking sick. Like you're getting your chance, and that's fucking. And again, the reason this podcast started, one was majority due to Coach Mac forcing me to do it. He
Yeah.
was like, "You're going back to the UK, do a podcast, speak to as many coaches as possible." But then I watched the video from Bert Bartholomew, the coach who wrote Conscious Coaching.
Hmm.
First industry book I've ever read, and great read. But he was talking about like 10 years ago, a coach asked him where he saw the industry in 10 years. And back then he said, like, if nothing changes, exactly where it was. 10 years later, it was exactly where it was. So it's like, again, back to an earlier point that we made, if we're not willing to stand 10 toes down, this industry is not changing.
Hmm.
Like, if we're not going to be stubborn and fucking arrogant about what we believe in terms of we do need equal pay to what ATs and PTs do, because we're fucking graduates. Like, we've got degrees, we've got accreditations, PhDs, whatever. Like, we need that fucking same level of respect in our name. Like,
It's
if we're not willing to be like, no, like my knowledge is actually worth some shit.
and I knew we were leading into this. I knew we were going to.
I've just
The
rage baited.
I know. I knew we were going to get here. The problem, and again, maybe it is, maybe it's not always a problem, but we have these athletes coming up. I'm sorry, we have these coaches coming up. And if you're only interested in the logo and you're thinking that you can get there and it's going to get better, and well, my initial interview, they told me I was only going to be making 30K, but I'm going to earn this next step, next step, next step, and I'm going to be no, that those Cinderella stories are so few and far between. And one dude that it happened for, and he got his big break in football or basketball, and he's now making 200, 300, 800K, and you think that's going to happen to you. Do you know that is less likely than you getting hit by a car today? You are more likely to walk into traffic than you are to be the person on that end. Am I discouraging somebody from working hard to get what they want? Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is when you come into this profession, you better come in eyes wide open. You better come in with all the information. And that's all I want. I don't want to discourage people from coming into this profession. I don't ever want to do that because there are some great human beings that I know that are in this profession and they are in it for all the right reasons. But at the end of the day, they need to feed themselves, they need to feed them families, and they need to stay mentally sound. And you don't do that when you're living paycheck to paycheck. And you don't do that when you're having to work another job. You don't do that when you're having to overload yourself so constantly and consistently that you can't do anything else. Your generosity eventually will turn into resentment. That's what it's going to turn into. That's what it'll cycle into. And then when you burn out, nobody gets you. Not your family, not your friends, absolutely not your athletes, interns, other coaches, none of that. So I want everybody that enters into this profession to come in eyes wide open and know that the institution was built to outlast you. You can get replaced, bop, like that. There is nobody that is going to love you like you love you. So when you enter into these conversations and you start talking about pay and making moves and compensation packages or goodness gracious, like family planning, right? If you have a spouse and you're talking about spousal, family leave or anything like that, you need to make the university work for you or the institution. Let's not even take this to universities. Let's just make this job, right? Generally speaking, your job. You need to make your job work for you because I know I've spent blood, sweat, and tears into my job, into what I do. The very least we can do, right? To have them turn it around and work for us as well. And I think that things like the Strong Act that will classify us in a different way, those things matter, right? Because we're not supposed to be wearing all these hats. We're not supposed to be doing all these different things. It's not what the profession was intended to be. And while I understand it is a business, right? The institution itself is a business. There has to be a point at which people stop coming into this profession and just taking the crumbs and being cool with it.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for this baby crumb. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm going to do so well here. I'm so happy. Like, if more young coaches knew their worth and stepped into that and went, 16K, I'm not doing work for you for 16K. Like, no way. Just because it was like that for our directors 30 years ago doesn't mean it needs to be like that now. That's crazy. The whole idea was for this to get better. I think there's an old saying, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm sure, but it's like old men plant seeds to trees that they'll never enjoy the shade of, right? Like,
Mhm.
that is what this is supposed to be. Do I think that it will change in my career lifetime, right? In my career lifespan, my career span, whatever? No. Do I think that it's suddenly going to be like, man, like I'm going to be like making what I'm worth? No, because the work I do is invaluable. Well, we'll go off of that. I'll pat myself on the back on that. But it's real, right? No, it's probably not going to happen, but I will be damned if I'm not one of the reasons that it does happen. I will be part of the change and I will be part of what pushes this profession forward and what takes people away from accepting breadcrumbs
Mm.
and gets in admin's ears about, hey, like we need to be pushing this forward. We're paying head coaches millions of dollars. Good God, we're paying athletes millions of dollars. Do you know what would happen if you have a shit strength coach and $1 million guy? What happens? That strength coach is only making 30K a year, but you're trusting him with that $1 million dude? Are you serious? That's crazy. Like, it's not a thing, right? It doesn't happen. And now that it's expanding, revenue share, all that stuff could push us forward, but right now it's not because
Mm.
people are taking budgets apart in order to feed the revenue share. And that's not what that was supposed to be to my knowledge. I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be that way. But I think that there's a lot of change that needs to be seen. But I think
Mm.
that a lot of it, and most of it starts with people loving themselves, understanding and accepting their worth, and being able to push forward off of that and grow their own side gig accordingly if they so choose.
No, 100%. And I think again, I spoke about this before, but it's like we need to keep the lights on. We can't just be paycheck to paycheck and accept bare minimum because we have that job opportunity. And I think
Yeah.
there's a couple things that will need to change for this strong act to really be what it's supposed to be. One of the big ones is undercutting each other. Like you kind of mentioned it before, but I'll put it in different terms. I know of a position at a D1 school that was offering 15,000.
Yep. Heard that.
Football,
Mm-hmm.
football, your football, my American football, and I know for a fact that coach tried to undercut that, and I'm just like, it's
Dude,
breadcrumbs, and
that's
you're like,
nuts.
and then you complain that we're not earning what we should.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm all up for people being employed and working their degree, but it's like at what cost?
Mm.
Like you're still going to have to do the fucking 10, 12 hours a day.
Yeah, yep. And I talked about this a little bit on Coach 'em Up. If you want people to really make it in this field, what we do, and Erica Lowry mentioned this while we were on that podcast, really the coaching, the actual coaching is 25% of the job.
Yep.
That is not very much of your time that's spent actually coaching athletes. The other 75% is the planning, the meetings, all of the things that are the bane of my existence. Like when it comes to actually feeding into the high performance, right? And what is it that we're doing? Yes, I want to be present. I want to be at practice. I want to be there when they wake up. I want to take them on walks. I want to make sure they're eating. I want to do all these other things, but then I'm stuck doing admin work or I'm stuck, doing whatever else. And I'm not saying that's not part of the job and I'm happy to do it. I'm right. I'm not, but I'm going to act happy to do it. And when you understand and you realize that, but that 25%, I would argue if it was a weighted moving average, right? If we want to talk about all these like sports sciencey things, that holds the most weight. The time you're spending with them, what you are doing with them holds so much weight because there are times of the year where you're seeing them more than their sport coaches are, right? I've seen my kids every single day this summer and the coaches have not seen them at all because it is a discretionary period, but it's voluntary and I haven't had any of them miss. Like nobody didn't show up. And that speaks volumes about the amount of trust that they have. And I think that truly, like if and when people were to put weight into that and understand how incredibly valuable that is and how much that holds, it changes, right? It changes your view of this person that you have in your program. And yeah, you can talk about how football and basketballs are making so much money. Do you not want good people in the volleyballs and gymnastics and, goodness, all these other sports, soccer and like, yeah, you do. You want good people in all of these settings. So pay them more money and give them their time back. Why are we demanding that we do these 10, 12, 13, 14-hour days or guard an empty weight room? What? Why are we doing that? That doesn't make sense at all. If you really want this, and for whatever reason, you can't just be paying these people what they're worth or anywhere near what they're worth, then give them their life back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. We'll work in shift work. Okay, you'll be here. Okay, you'll be here. And if you really love them, do both, right? Pay them more and give them their lives back. Let them have a waking moment where they're not at work 7 days a week because we all know that's very real. As I roll into season, I will have 0 days off. I know that for the next 4 months, from the beginning of August until December, I'm not going to have any days off. I know that because I have multiple sports. It gets different when you're a football or a basketball where that's all you have.
Mm-hmm.
And when they have an off day, you also have an off day. And I also understand it's not that simple. Don't come for me. If you're in football and basketball, I freaking get it. Whatever. But you're with 12 dudes with basketball, so shut up. And with football, there's so many of you, so also shut up. But that in and of itself is enough. Whereas, like, for me, and goodness, I only have two sports. Imagine the ones that have 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are coaches who are coaching 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 14 teams by themselves. They don't get the off days. They don't get the reprieve. They don't get to reset. They don't get to take care of themselves. So in a couple years, they're tapped and they're like, I'm done. I'm going to go sell flooring or go to Home Depot. I don't know. I don't know what people do after this. So I'm trying to figure that out one of these days. But it's so incredibly important. And I just think we don't talk about it nearly enough because we talk about what a blessing it is to be where we're at and what an honor it is to be where we're at. And while those things are very true, two things can be true at the same time. You can be very grateful to be where you're at and blessed and fortunate. And I love pouring into the athletes and I love my coaches and I love the people that I'm around. And I've been blessed with some of my best relationships at work. However, the other can also be true. You can be overworked and undervalued and underpaid. That's true. All of them are, both of those things are true. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that we can give life to the negative things and tell you that they exist while also living in gratitude and acting and being positive and not letting them make us bitter. Because when they make you bitter, that's when everybody draws the line and they're like, we don't want to be around this girl because she's
Mm-hmm.
bitter and all she ever does is talk about how awful everything is.
100%. I think as well, like we kind of spoke about it earlier. I'm not going to blow up your spot, but I don't mind talking about mine. But like that's why, one, I only have 3 sponsors on the podcast, and that's very deliberate.
Hmm.
And I think it's to the thing where like one, yes, I'm in a fortunate position where that stuff does happen. B, it's like I only work with companies that, like you said, that I like and use. But three, it has to streamline my process. Like my time is valuable, and I think like if I have, say, at best 16 hours a day, like I have to, like I still have a wife, I still have a dog that I need to walk, I still need to eat. Like, as I go through this industry more and more, my 12 PMs and my 8 PMs and my 9 AMs are the most important on my day. Because I just sit down and fucking eat. I'm not scoffing foods into my mouth
In
over a
between
spoon.
things.
Like,
Yeah.
I processed it down so quick. Like, I've started eating with, like, when I was full time in different jobs, I was in with spoons because I can get the food into my mouth faster.
Hmm.
Like, I don't have to jab it. Like, I just fucking.
Just shovel that shit right in.
So
That's
it's like my 9 a.m., my
wild.
12 p.m.s, and my 8 p.m.s most valuable. And then I get to spend time with my wife.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like, my dog comes into work with me every day. Like, he's got a bed in the gym. Like, if it's just me and my clients in, he's out. He's dropping the ball at their feet for them to throw it.
We love that. And that's one of the conversations that, and I will put myself on blast for this because I think for the longest time, I was so against anybody ever monetizing and
Mm-hmm.
being, even just recently, call it, 3 months ago, when things really, really started rolling for me, I was like, I'm just going to continue to educate people and just give people my time and just be giving. And again, I mentioned it earlier in this podcast, your generosity will turn to resentment as soon as that stuff starts encroaching on your life, right? My time with my significant other, like my time with my dogs, my time with my family when my family's in town, and when I'm missing family events, and all of these other things, your generosity will very quickly turn to resentment, and that's not good. So, looking at in my situation, I've talked to people like John Heck and Zach Zillner and Joe Padula, these people that are really pouring into me, going like, dude, wake up. Like, you have a very specific skill set. And my friend Danny Foxhoven, she works for Whistle Performance. She was like, people want you. It has way less to do with the programs. It has way less to do with all these other things. They want you. They want access to you. And so that's why, like, you're getting people asking you all these things and they want to talk to you and they want to bring, whatever it is, because they see something that they want. And so, you offer to give somebody an hour of your time. Is it really an hour of your time?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. It's your experience. It's you pouring into them. It's your decision making. It's your problem solving. It's all of these other things. And that's worth something. Put a value on that. And that's kind of where my mind shifted. And because I don't plan to retire in strength conditioning, generally speaking, or collegiate strength conditioning. Like I have said it earlier, now I'm going to say it again. Like I am an educator who coaches. I want to be able to coach other people. I want to be able to inform. I want to teach people how to apply the knowledge that they've got. Right? I want to teach people actual critical thinking skills that I think seem to be lacking so much these days, unfortunately. I want people to understand how to apply the things that they're learning, and I think that deserves space. And yeah, when people are asking me to make programs, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna make a program. Like I'm gonna start disseminating them through a platform though. I'm gonna start building out my own stuff. I'm gonna make sure that I have a passive income, that I'll be updating these programs every 2 months. Enjoy, folks. Here you go. You want access to that? There you go. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't believe in hiding behind a paywall when it comes to information. I think that's totally different. Information is free. Google is free. The things that I put out into the world are free. I tell my programming. I show my process. I put everything live on Instagram. I don't ever plan to charge people for that. But when you circle around and now I'm doing extra work and I'm losing time with my loved ones and time that I really don't have, also, we're not going to do that. And I'm going to make sure that I set myself up for success whenever I leave college as well, to build a platform, to make sure that I have everything that I need to take care of myself, to take care of my family, and to give me, again, add the value back into my life that I have worked so hard to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that I feel like I had such a negative outlook on it for a really long time, because to me it felt selfish and it felt manipulative. Right? To be like, oh, well, I'll do this, but you gotta, you owe me. Yeah, all right. Well, we don't ask other people in their people first jobs
Mm-hmm.
to do their jobs for free. Right? Just because you chose a job that is in service to other people doesn't mean that you have to do it for free. We don't ask doctors to treat people for free. Well, maybe sometimes we do, and whatever that looks like. They get paid regardless. But we don't ask, accountants to do our taxes for free. We don't ask, nurses to treat us for free. There are people who are, yes, totally in service to other people, and they don't do their jobs for free. Why in the world are we any different? Why are we out here writing programs and doing all these things for free? That's wild. So my perspective really shifted quite a bit into taking not only just getting money hungry. That's not what I'm saying at all, and I don't think that that's my personal flaw. I think that's some other people's problems. It's not my own problem, but taking care of myself, keeping the lights on, like you said, and making sure that I have every opportunity to maintain the value that I know I have while also helping other people in the process.
100%. I think I've kind of got 2 points on this, and what you said is very real. And because we're from an industry where like we don't make a lot of money, so it's kind of hard to pay each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like there's also like this guilt of like fuck, I've worked so hard for this, but like
But I know X
damn,
person
this
can't
guy.
pay me however many
Yeah.
dollars. Yeah, exactly.
So like, there's a lot of guilt, and there's also a lot of imposter syndrome, I suppose, too,
Without a doubt.
where it's like, fuck, but do I actually know that much to be charging this amount of money? And like, I've worked out this system where it's like, okay, if we're talking about my experience, what is my experience? So 4 years of undergraduate, I've been working in S&C since I was 14 as well. So like, I did work experience with my team where I was coaching the 13-year-olds up. And then, so that was free. I didn't make a fucking penny from that. And then I've had like 4 other internships. It was like a year long each. So like, again, so that's 8 years I'm deep where I've not made a fucking penny. But I've learned all this information.
Yeah.
So like, what I think of monetization is like, that's what I'm monetizing.
hmm
Like all that
My
free
experience. Yeah.
all that free work I've had to do to learn what I now know,
hmm
that's what I'm charging for. I'm
Sure.
I've got 8 years of experience of unpaid work. Anything from now on, that's fucking extra.
Yeah. And
So
that's
like,
that's the thing that we're just guilted into not doing, right? And I think you used the perfect word, and I think that's the one I was searching for, is it does make you feel guilty. And like I'm not trying to rob anybody. This is not highway robbery where I'm gonna be like, well, these programs are worth 5 grand and like, dude, chill out. You should like you're not that special. But I think again, it comes with knowing your worth and knowing the value that you hold. And if people want something from you that badly, they will pay. They're going to pay. And that's again, I'm doing a business mentorship with Joe Padula to talk about things that you'll pay for. I will pay for that shit.
mhm,
I will pay for somebody to pour into me and tell me what it takes. Hey, what's it take for you to get successful? I don't care if you're younger than me, older than me, freaking more experienced than me, less experienced than me. If you've had success, let's go. Like, tell me about it, right? How can I get better in this? And what does that look like? So I think that that's something that we have to remember and truly, I don't want to say capitalize on because that sounds like
mhm,
a money grab, but like you've got to believe in yourself enough to know your worth and to know the exchange worth, right? To
mhm,
sit there and go, okay,
mhm,
it's not just them giving me money and me giving them nothing. Like that's kind of how it feels and how it seems sometimes. I think to me is like, well, am I giving you enough? Am I giving you enough value? And sometimes it's not even monetary though, Manny. Like sometimes it's just friendship, right?
mhm,
It's the ability to get on and speak your mind and to be myself and to I got on a call with somebody today and he was like, hey, can I, message me and was like, hey, is there any way that I could, run some stuff by you? And I said, yeah, dude, I have 30 minutes at this time. I would love to chat with you, right? He was great. He was kind. He was respectful. He did his research on me beforehand. He didn't ask me any weird, like, well, how'd you get where you're going? No, like, did his research, had very specific things that he wanted to talk about, and I loved it. And I got stuff out of it too. And that's what I told him. I was like, dude, I get things out of this too. Like, it's wonderful. And he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm really gonna respect your time. No way, guy. Like, this is great. These are the kind of conversations I want to have,
mhm,
right? That's why we go to conferences. That's why we go to do things. Again, educator that can coach. But at the end of the day, when I go to conferences, I'm getting paid to speak there. I'm getting
mhm,
paid to be there. And that's again, it's great. And I want to continue to disseminate information and educate other people. And there can be plenty of opportunities for you to feed into somebody else's life and them to feed into your life, and that's not monetary gain, but I think
mhm.
that's incredibly valuable. And you work relationships and you let people really know you and how you think, and then you become somebody that's invaluable across the board and in the profession that people want to learn from, and that opens up more doors in the future.
I also I don't know if you've encountered this yet, but it's sometimes younger coaches who have all these questions but do nothing with it afterwards.
hmm
And it's so I've again thinking of my own time, I've found a way to like reduce the amount that happens, and it's getting them to book the appointment. Like
Yep, that's
send
exactly
me
what
an
I do.
invite,
I'm not scheduling it. You send me the link. You let
send
me
me an
know.
invite, and
Yeah.
it's like that's worked so great for me because it's like it just cuts out some of the bullshit.
hmm
Like if you can't be bothered to, I'm there's no point in me doing it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not
That is for sure.
I'm not stressing out because you think you have questions. Like if you're that interested in it, you would book. And I've had some like what you're saying, like those 30 minutes go for 2 hours sometimes because it's
Yeah.
like it's people who I want to pour into,
Hmm.
and it's like then it comes that thing of like okay, now that was a fucking good conversation.
Yeah, and that gives you something, right? And that's, again, I'm not sitting out here telling everybody that you should be charging for every moment of your time, but I think there's a lot to be said about what we give people and that you can really develop some fantastic working relationships and get people really involved and really bought into what you're doing just by spending, yep, like taking, hey, dude, I've got 15 minutes right here. If you got a couple questions, call me, right? If you don't call me, I've also had people just I'm really busy on this day and schedule a call with me and then that time rolls around and I'm really busy this day, can we reschedule? And my answer is no.
Mm.
Like no, I can't reschedule now. My week is full. Contact me again in 2 weeks. Sometimes they reach back out, sometimes they don't. If it's really important to you, I know you'll reach back out, right? I'm not going anywhere. I don't think. I hope not. Knock on wood, right? Like that's not the plan. But if it means something to you, do it, right? I also understand getting busy 100%. That's why it's not like I'll never talk to them again. And I'm like, oh, well, write this person off. They got busy. So like, no, that's not the point either. But the point is, if it means something to you, you'll circle back, right? You'll come back next week when I tell you, hey, Sunday's my day. I put my schedule together. Shoot me a text on Sunday, and I'll get with you then, right? Whatever that looks like. But it is a real thing of having people schedule.
Mm.
I almost just want to have a little like access to my calendar that's like, here are your free options. Here's your 15-minute, 30-minute blocks. Like pick one. Let me know how we can proceed.
So that's called Calendly.
I'm not doing it. I'm not actually doing it. I would never actually do it. I think I was introduced to Calendly by Dan Braun and impressive,
I've
but
got
I'm not giving
mixed
anybody else access to my time like that. I'll
feelings.
tell you when I'm available.
I've got mixed feelings on that. Simply because like from day to day, my day can change quick.
Hmm.
I could wake up and have a plan, something fucks up, and I'm just like, oh well.
Well, that's done. Yeah. Yep. Been there.
No, but it's yeah. I think like it's a similar mind frame, and I think this is why we get on really well. Is because like we're both just trying to like how can we push this industry forward, and I think a lot of coaches like to say, "Oh, I'm trying to leave the industry better than I found it," but then do
Hmm.
fucking nothing differently. And it's like when I see, and I think I can't remember if I showed you a message when you started doing. I think I did when you started doing your videos and like posting constantly. I was like, AK, I fucking love this. Let's jump on.
Yeah.
Because it's like to me anyways, you've always made your program so available. As in like we hopped on a call, you were like, this is what I do. You showed me your Excel, you showed me your fucking testing data, you showed me everything. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's what we need. But then also realizing like we need money. Like that's something real. So it's like and I think we actually spoke about this because you were feeling a bit guilty about, charging people for
Monetizing. Yeah.
but it's like, you've been at some fucking big ass schools, worked with some fucking big ass athletes. So like,
Yeah.
charge it.
It is, and and again, it's taken me so long to get over it, but eventually, I think everybody's gonna come to the same point where it's like, oh yeah, this is worth something, right? My knowledge is worth something, and it's true. And I think that I love it, and it's been a great perspective shift for me. Doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you like some money hungry psycho that's just like, oh, you want to have a conversation with me? $15, pick select your payment method. First of all, that's hilarious. And there are people who I would absolutely say that to. Like, cool, you Venmo me $20 and we can have a conversation, but just as a joke. But I think that when we start, the more that we're sharing, again, the information is available everywhere. You can Google, ChatGPT can write you a program. It can't coach for you.
Yeah.
The coaching experience, all the practical application, the lived experiences of others, and my own lived experience and the way that my brain works. There is not another person whose brain works like mine. There's not. There are people who are similar. There are people who have probably can run parallel, but there is nobody that can run on the tracks that I run on. And when I want to explain my system to somebody, it's going to take a lot longer than this 30-minute conversation to get that through your head. So when it comes to teaching adaptation, when it comes to teaching scalability, when it comes to teaching true, real curiosity, not just getting the answer to a question. That's like studying the flow of pattern where A, B, B, A, C, C. Okay, cool. This is how I answer the test. There's a difference between that, knowing the answer, and knowing how you got there, right? And that's the cheaters all want the answers quickly.
Mhm.
right? Because they want to get the A. And the people who really care about bettering themselves want to know the process. They want to know the system. They want to know the knowledge because they want to in turn make that serve them and the people around them. So I see coaching mentorship in my future at some point. I would like to be in that. That's why I do so much work for the NSCA. I really do appreciate what the NSCA has allowed me to do in the platform that they've given me. And I think at the end of the day that the more transparent I am, I mean, I've been pretty damn transparent, but I just continue to put out what I learn and what I know, what I work with, how I do it, issues I come across. And I mean, I'll put up the data that I've got from week 1 to week 6, or whatever it is. And my trend lines aren't pretty. Sometimes they do like this. Does it mean we change the whole program? Absolutely not, because at the end of the day, we still got here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot to be said about diminishing the guilt and empowering people in the space to know their value, to know their worth, to love themselves first, and understand that the institution needs to serve them also. That the institution was built to outlast all of us, and it will persist when we're gone. So what we're not going to get back is our family time and our sanity and, good Lord, your life. Right there, you're not going to get this life back. So figuring out how to create a space in which there is integration between the way that you live your life, the work that you do, keeping it at a high level, and also still existing and breathing from time to time and getting that rest and reprieve.
It's also realizing that like systems are different, not one size fits all per se. So like
Context is king.
but as well as like when we're talking about monetizing, I think it becomes that really hard, and it's kind of that thing where like two things can be right at the same time. And it's like you can definitely monetize your experience and your knowledge, but it's also like realizing that like for the first maybe 3 years of your industry experience, you probably don't know that much to monetize.
Yeah, I'm
So
10 years in and I don't know that much.
so here's another thing. So I'm what 155 plus episodes in. Like every time I speak to certain coaches, I know fucking nothing, and that's fine. Like
Yeah,
every episode, I fucking learn something new,
yeah.
and it's like I get paid to speak at conferences, but like I'll speak to like Tim. Tim's a good example. I
10 Sith
sometimes
now.
I
Yeah.
spoke to Tim a couple months ago, and he showed me some research that he's working on that hasn't been published yet, and he showed me the results, and I was like, "You're fucking operating on a different level. Like, what the fuck is going on?" And he was like, "Yeah, I just got thinking." I was like, "Sick."
Just got to thinking, so I figured we'd try this and see where it goes. And it turns out it goes in a really positive direction.
So like every time I speak to Tim, I'm just like, "Fuck." And then I'll speak to Paul Comfort, and like, holy shit! Like some of the space stuff that he's been doing, like I'm just like fucking hell. Like it's simple stuff, but it's like how do you resist against no gravity?
Yeah. Well,
And like the recent space mission that went around the moon, they had a K box in there.
yeah, I
It's
saw
like it
that.
didn't
That was pretty
overload
sick.
it. And I was
That was
like,
pretty
fuck.
sick.
But it's like every time you should look at like what can I learn new, but it's like how can I monetize something that, and again the guilt, the imposter syndrome all kicks in, and you're like, should I charge? But like if you're having those conversations with yourself, you should probably charge.
Yeah. If you're self-aware enough to ask those conversations, yeah. It's the people that are like, I'm the best in the world and I have the secrets that you don't have, that I'm like, oh, stay away from me. Like I don't touch me with whatever you've got. I don't want it. Whatever that is, may that never find me.
You also kind of mentioned something that kind of ties into that isometrics and the jumping, and you know that coming out of isometric side is how does that program then develop from like isometrics? And I know you kind of said you sprinkle them throughout the season regardless, but how do you work on the other qualities from program to program, block to block?
But it just depends on where we are and what we're looking for, right? So if maintenance is really important, isometrics can play a really big role, right? When we're looking at, again, we have to consider durations and we have to consider angles, especially when we're looking at fatigue, right? Longer durations of maximal effort overcoming isometrics are going to fry your CNS. Shorter durations are not, right? When we're looking at like different pause positions at yieldings, right? Where are we pausing and for how long? So again, it's the quality at the end of the day that you're looking, right? What adaptation are you seeking to create? And are you trying to do it in a way that's going to serve the athlete in the moment, like as potentiation? Or are
Mm.
you looking in a way that it's going to serve them in a few weeks in a gaining of range of motion or control or stiffness, right? There are things that you can't, and please, anybody watching this, if you're in season and you're like, yeah, totally, I'm going to start implementing isometrics in season and you haven't done them previously and in the off season, don't. What in the world? But don't introduce these things. This is something that I have been working on for the past 2 years and put into this system where these athletes they're accumulating this workload very nicely. And I think that that's the first thing I think about is, again, time of year, duration, intensity, joint angle, right? We know that actually the whole angle specificity thing, we're actually seeing gains up to 30 degrees away from the joint. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there's a lot of what we look at isometrics that I think have been kind of skewed one way or the other because people were afraid to be wrong with them. And to that, I say that I'm not telling you to use them exclusively. That is not what you need to do, right? You don't need to just go to pure on isometric training. They have to be done in conjunction with everything else that we do. So your dynamic work still has a place. Your speed work still has a place. Your strength work still has a place. Your, again, Olympic derivatives for me still have a place, but isometrics also, every session, there is some form of isometrics involved in what we're doing, and it feeds the rest of the system. There's also whole recovery days that I use with submaximal overcoming isometrics. So again, when we're looking at restoring blood flow and looking at a way to not fry them over time, but and to not move them into dysfunction when they're fatigued and not accumulate even more fatigue, those 20 to 30-second, 70-ish% effort overcoming isometrics are going to give you great things. And I mean, that's that whole session that I run. I run a completely overcoming isometric session that lasts 20 minutes and it's
Mm.
done. And again, we don't risk dysfunction in movement, right? Sometimes the movement can be chaotic, and especially when there's fatigue, right? That's when you're going to start seeing compensations in movement. So what do? Just take it away, right? Take away the option for the movement and address what you need to address in other ways. And I consider it to be a form of recovery as well. Like we said, potentiation, you can see strength gains, right? You can see neuromuscular adaptation, great, but you can also enhance recovery in using them. So using them year round, again, I think they've got a place all the time in my program.
I think as well there's something to be said about ex- exposing athletes to different movement qualities during every session. So
Yes.
it's like working through isometrics, working in a more ballistic way or a more powerful way or a strength focus. Like I think it was during my exit interview with Coach Matt, and like I had a laundry list of questions for him. So part of what I think about is like if I'm paying something, I need to extract that value away from that experience. Like if I paid for my university degree, again, prices are different here to there. Scotland's free education. So, like, in theory, I didn't pay for my education, but, like, I did. So, I have to extrapolate that for myself. I ask my lecturers questions every single fucking session. So, when I was in my exit interview, I asked them, like, program breakdowns, and it was like knowing that it's fine to put a speed squat with plank, just
Yeah.
examples.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. You're all right. The textbook is just it's just explaining theories. How you apply them is up to you. How you see fit works for you is also okay. Like how many times have you read in research papers or textbooks that you can't run a power block and a strength block at the same time? You explode. But do
Mm,
you? But do you? It's like it's knowing that those things can all happen at the same time and they do work. Like you
yeah.
can work on strength and endurance at the same time. Like
Vertical integration, man. It's everything.
it's the whole thing with concurrent training, if you want to call it that. Like one of the questions I had for Coach Mack was like, so he runs a 5 tier system. Each tier has four exercises each, and then it got me thinking of like, okay, if it's 5 and 4, each tier lasts around 15 minutes. What's he getting ready for? A game of football. 4 tiers, extra time. Each tier is for 15 minutes.
Hmm.
So he's working on the conditioning of the game during this. So he's got 4 circuits, 4 exercise circuit 5 times. So that's conditioning too, because there's no break in between. He's
Right.
working in the push pull system. So like when one is recovering, the other's working. Then you've got your core. then you've got your accessories, and then you've got some sort of stabilizers. Like you're fucking tapped in.
Yeah. And I mean, I think so much of that is, again, your experience and what works for you and how you make it work for you. Would that work for everybody? Probably not. Right? Like it's all in. Yeah. It is truly all in the way that we work our own systems.
100%. Yeah, it's. The more I go through these, the more I like these conversations where it's like there's not a right answer per se,
No.
but there is a wrong answer.
Right. There is absolutely a wrong answer, and it ends with pain and dysfunction and, harm. But I think as long as we're following that, do no harm and
Mm.
act in best practice, right? And to me, best practice means that it's something that has been relatively explored, right? Like we're not just going to jump off and start doing like overreaching skills with young
Mm.
athletes. Like we're not going to start overreaching with 11-year-olds. What? Like hold on, what? We're not going to start trying to make maximal strength adaptation with, the fresh kid that's never lifted before. Like chill out. Right. There is a way to act in best practice. And I think that is, I think I've mentioned this to you before. That is including in your process health over performance. Well, is this going to negatively impact their health?
Mm.
Then it's definitely going to negatively impact their performance, right? So I think that when we think that way, it makes us better coaches. And we have to remember that we're serving the athlete in front of us. So one
Mm.
athlete A is different than athlete B. So maybe athlete A needs something different and maybe it's not in any textbooks. But what are we going to do? We got to trial it. And so there are athletes that I've had, actually, the one that touched 11 and a half feet today, that I've said, dude, you're an anomaly. Like she is a freak. And I was like, we just got to figure this out. So I've grabbed her several times and said, how do you feel after this? Hey, we're going to try this today. Okay. Doesn't feel good? Scrap that, right? Hey, we're going to try this today. Ooh, you feel good? All right. Let's write down how we feel. Cool. Let's try it again next time. We try it again next time. Feel good again. Okay, great. Let's do that. Let's trial and error things and find what works. It is going to take time. But if you are willing to take that time to make the adaptation, to listen to the person in front of you and believe what they're telling you and make adjustments accordingly, you're going to go somewhere. I don't know how far, but you're going to go somewhere.
So two things on that, and those athletes are perhaps some of the hardest to coach, but the
Hmm.
best at the same time. One, because you can throw the sink at them, and they're like, "Got it, let's go." But like it challenges your coaching and programming because you're like, okay, like what else can I do with them?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
that's kind of where, to an earlier point of yours, is like that creativity comes in, and it's like shit. Like okay, so this worked, but she's still got more in there. Like how can I squeeze this rag as much as I can? And it's like your creativity, like hitting different angles or same movement but different angles or loading them differently. Like instead of front loaded, let's go back loaded or
Yeah.
some fucking form of variation. But also it takes tremendous trust on the athlete, and again it's down to
Hmm.
the relationship that you've built that these things can happen. And
Hmm.
it's like that thing where like her being where she is and touching that height probably built more trust for you. And it's like whatever Coach AK says, Coach AK gets. And it's like we always talk about like my athletes will run through walls for me. I can, if you ask the athlete to through a wall for you, how hard do you want me to hit the AK?
Jump over buildings. It's fine. I'm not even worried about them running over walls. They're just gonna jump over buildings, and they're just. It's true though, and I know they'll do whatever I tell them to do because I've told them to do some whack ass shit. They're like, at first they hear it and they're like, okay, like you see it roll through at first where they're like, huh, and then it leaves. It's like in one ear out the other, and they're like, deal, okay, cool, like let's go do it. So it speaks a lot to the relationship and the fact that they also see me train and they see the way I live life and. There's a lot to be said about the respect that's reciprocated between people when you do listen and you do act on what you actually say and you are exactly who you say you are. That's the biggest piece to me is that when you are who you say you are, in the way that you treat people, in the way that you live your life, in the way that you act, it's hard for them not to trust you. It's hard for them not to give you pieces of themselves in the process and just capitalize on everything that they are as an athlete and as a human and continue to build those relationships even when they're gone. Like I've got athletes that will still reach out hey, remember this one time that we did this? Like, they'll laugh about it, right? Something horrible that I put them through or something that they deem to be horrible. They'll laugh about it later, right? It does come back, and it usually comes back in a very positive way because at the end of the day, they know that whatever it is that I'm asking you to do, I'm asking you to do it for a reason. Even if that reason sometimes is just symbolic in
Mm.
nature of like, we need to experience this. Cool. We do it and it's done.
I think as well as when they see you work out, it does hit differently for them. Like
Hmm.
again, I'm privileged in the fact that I can do this in the private sector, but sometimes I'll drop in on my client sessions with them. Like I'll just work out, I'll do the whole program with them. And like I've had some of them turn around to me and like, oh, you do this exact same thing. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I
I
do.
don't program anything I wouldn't do myself. And
Hmm.
that's fucking stupid.
Exactly. And that speaks to it, right? There is nothing that I will have them do that I have not tried. Now, am I going to put myself in that situation and tell you that I know exactly what they're
Mm.
experiencing? No, because I don't play volleyball at a high level. Absolutely not. But I will be damned if I don't take myself through it and experience it. That's why, like every single coach that's out there, if you don't train, what you doing? Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You have got, and I'm not just telling you you have to be the best of the best. I'm not telling you you have to go out there and be some elite level lifter or trainer or whatever. Not saying that at all. But if you don't train and you don't put yourself in those situations, how in the world do you expect anybody to trust what you're saying? Right? And the OGs are different. Do I think that some of these dudes that have been in the field for 50 some odd years and training and working and have systems, do I think they need to be getting in there just absolutely grinding? No, probably not. They're probably over it. They're coaches, they're sprint coaches, some of the best that have been around for a long time. Do I think they actively do it anymore? No, I sure don't. It's just the human body. Biology can be a bitch sometimes. But especially younger coaches, if you were not a Division One athlete, especially if you weren't a Division One athlete, and you don't actively train and chase
Mm.
adaptation and believe in your own system and what you're peddling, figure that out. That's between you and God. But like, get on that. Probably pray about it and see where you end up.
I think it's always that thing as well, where it's like if you don't try your own programs, you don't know what the offsets of your training are either.
Hmm.
Like I once made a program where it was like it was to develop posterior chain, which it did. In theory, it did. But like my back was fucking smoked every session. Like my lower back was in fucking pieces. And like I didn't run that program to anyone else because it was like that shit hurt. Like you also get a sense of like what is tapping into a little bit too much and not enough.
Hmm. It's true, especially if you're trained. And if you're untrained, sometimes even better. If you're trying something new, if I'm trying a movement that I have not previously used, it's going to take me at least 2 weeks to
Mm-hmm.
decide if it has a place in my program or not. I'm not going to see something on friggin' social media and be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. No, oh, I'm gonna try that, right? I'm gonna play with that. I'm gonna see what's going on. Not, I'm gonna put that in my program next week. Chill out, bro. Hold on. Give it a shot first, right? Roll through it. See if it actually fits your goals for the session. See if it's going, like, let's try, let's start there. Because I don't think that everything we see and everything something claims to do necessarily does it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a little bit of experimentation.
So I think you'll appreciate this. So we all talk about like the toolbox. Oh, I
Mm.
go to a conference, it's more tools to the toolbox. I speak to a coach, more tools in the toolbox.
Hmm.
Which is fine. But like, what do you envision a toolbox as? And when you're putting in these tools?
I'm gonna tell my dogs to shut up first. Hey, shut up, get out. Knock it off. Go outside if you have a problem. Go. When I think tool, so if we're just talking tools in a toolbox, one, I've used that phrase. I kind of hate it, right? It's suffocating, right? Because to me, that makes it seem like we're just constantly accumulating. I don't know if you have a toolbox. I do. I don't know what's in that thing. Like, I don't know. There are some screws down that are at the depths that I have no idea what they go to. I don't know how they work. I don't know what they would help me with. And that's not how I see our skill set, right? I think that, yes, I understand the saying, but my brain, again, nobody's brain works like my brain works. And probably to everybody's successes in this life, right? It's to their benefit that their brain doesn't work like mine. But I want to see it as an addition to my skills, right? I want to see it as an addition to my skill set. Does that broaden my horizons? Does that broaden my ability to serve athletes that are in front of me? Does that broaden my ability to serve somebody, right? Is that going to make them better? Because at the end of the day, me learning how to better utilize the force plates isn't going to make me very different, right? That's not probably going to change the way that I interact with athletes, but it is going to feed back into my system and my awareness, right? Because it shines a light on what I'm doing. It shines a light on it makes my communication skills better with my coaches because now I can pull up these fancy smancy numbers and show them, aha, here's here's what's happening. So when I think about that, it is just an addition to my skill set, right? It makes me more apt to serve. It makes me better in some way to service an athlete in a way that maybe I didn't know, right? In a way that maybe I hadn't explored. So instead of just being something that I stash away in a toolbox and I don't think about, it's something that I need to actively practice. It's something that I have to actively put into place over and over and over again instead of just something that I pull out when I need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a little bit more about how I view additions, right, to my coaching skill set and to put things out there and to really understand what is going to move the needle, what is going to make me better, what is going to take this kid from, touching 10-8, 10-9 to touching 11. What's it going to be? And how much am I willing to experiment and explore with that one athlete, with that one thing? And what are we going to get out of it? Right? What's the return on investment, if you will, of that tool or that addition to my skill set? So I think that curiosity ultimately is the biggest and best tool, right? To me, being able to remain curious and to seek out those things, even if it doesn't look traditional, even if it doesn't look or feel immediately like something that would work, your ability to ask better questions and to get away from rigidity in your system will make it better for everybody around you.
So I'm so glad that you went here because that's exactly how I looked at toolboxes. Like I saw the toolboxes like those old school ones that's just like
Yeah.
a
You slam
rectangle.
it shut and you throw it
Yeah,
under
you
the
have a
bed.
handle, you've only got one tray and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've started thinking about it more in like a tiered system. So like there's four drawers, right? First drawer is like things that you go to every single day. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's your bread and bar. Second tier is like if something like if you've got one of those athletes that the adaptations just aren't coming. You're like, fuck, what else can I do to put in to that program that's like going to perhaps get them there? So that's your first two tiers. And like I like to explain it this way. It's like you go to a conference or you speak to a coach and you learn this new tool. Stick that on fourth tier. Like that's where everything goes. Like that's the shit pile. Your third tier then becomes like an experimental tier. Where it's like you move from 4 to 3 and like you experiment for a month, 2 months, a block, 2 blocks, whatever you want, whatever you deem fit for that specific tool. From there, then you can make a decision. Okay, does it go tier 2 or tier 1? Or does it go back to 4 and then look at it in 3 or 4 months down the line, see if different blocks need different things. Does that tool perhaps work best somewhere else in the season? Like tools can obviously go up and down. So like your tier 1, that Thunderbird system that can go down to 2, or it could just be scrapped completely.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking at this progressive and like how to constantly like experiment, tweak. Let's look at different points of the season. Like, does this work better preseason, in season, off season? Like, where are we with these tools? And like, it's an active, passive way to one, keep yourself like sharp. Because like if you're constantly experimenting with yourself, I mean, you should know what's going on. You should know if it works or not. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like this. And again, I'm really glad that you went where you went because like it's that progressive thing. It's like how can I constantly look at this thing that I've learned and where does it fit?
And just trying to get fresh eyes on it too, right? Like if we get stuck in our same rotary pattern and then somebody else comes along and introduces something new, it can sound like an attack, right? You're like, no, what I'm doing is fine. Like, no, can you get curious about it? Oh, well, why do you think that? What's going on? What do you see? So getting fresh eyes on it too it can be incredibly helpful and talking to people about why you do what you do and visiting other people. Like that's one of my favorite things to do is site visits with other people. Like let me get on a phone call or let me, talk to my friends that are in the field and understand what it is they're doing and why and what can I take from that and put it into my own system. Not steal their I'm not trying to go copy paste on anybody, but how do I use the things that I know and the things that I learn to fit into what I'm doing, right? How am I looking at that? So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's worthwhile.
Yeah. what's some advice that you would give new coaches?
New coaches, don't get caught up in the fancy schmancy bullshit. Don't. Ask better questions and seek out simpler solutions. Low cost, high value is the way to go. What is going to cost you the least and give you the most? Return on investment is huge. Look at it like investment banking, right? How are you going to get the return on your investment that you're making currently in yourself and in the people around you? And if you can't do it simply, why can't you? Like, find out, seek out those simple solutions first and apply them and understand why it's working for you. And then if you add complexity over time, cool, great, wonderful. But seeking out the most complex way first is absolutely not the way.
What's firing you up right now to progress in this industry and your in the pathway that we've spoke about for the past 2 hours?
Keeping my sanity, right? Honestly, like self-preservation in a lot of ways. Yeah, truly, because I do want to be able to serve athletes. I do want to be able to be in the setting I'm in because I do love it. I'm slightly unhinged. Like, there are times where I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go do my thing and start my day and think like, wow, I just really love this. I really love what I'm doing. But I want to be able to do it sustainably. And that means that I have to be able to take care of myself and the people around me. And that means that I need rest. That means I need to be able to afford everything in this life that I need. I don't need to be living paycheck to paycheck, right? So keeping my sanity right now is something I'm very passionate about. And then making sure that I keep information accessible. Again, I'm not trying to gatekeep. I'm not trying to hide, hide my notes and make sure that I'm the only one that knows how to do these things. No, I want to elevate this entire profession. I want everybody to be better because they know me or because they follow me on social media. It's not about the socials. It's not about the random ass strangers that are following me on the internet. It's about dissemination of information in a way. This is a way. This is an option. I'm not telling you that you should do what I'm doing. I'm not telling you that you have to do what I'm doing. I'm going to show you what I'm doing so that you have options, so that you can look and see like this is being done at this level. Wow, how about that? Neat. Because I'm not going to be out here and make people think I'm doing some mystical voodoo shit on these athletes to make them do what they're doing. I'm going to show you exactly what it is that we're doing. And so when people have asked me about the jump heights today, whoa, how'd you guys get here? Yo, I've been posting this stuff since we started. How about you go back and take a peek?
Mm-hmm.
Go back and look, and you're going to see why we got where we are.
I think as well, and I think Madison Peely also does this really fucking well, and she will post her workouts before her workouts. And it's like there's something to that too, where it's like it takes away that factor of like you've perhaps did something with them that you didn't show us.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Like that, there is no gatekeeping. There is no secret way. There's nothing that I'm afraid to show. And if people want to call bullshit and call me an idiot, that's fine. Go ahead. I've got athletes that are performing regardless of what you think about what I do.
And being successful at it.
They're doing all right. They're absolutely finding their way. But I'm gonna tell you what, we don't have them getting hurt. We're not experiencing unnecessary soft tissue injuries. It's something, there's something to be said about availability and your ability as a strength coach to not harm them and to help them stay available. Am I saying that we can prevent injury? Absolutely not. But we can cause it. We can surely cause it. So do no harm and act in best practice.
I was speaking at the Italian conference, and now I'll preference this: S&C there is nowhere fucking near where it should be at all. Like no shade to them, but the first year I did that conference, they didn't know how to see MJ jump.
Woo!
Like
All right.
like and going into their masters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I was like fuck. So I always like to tell them what an S&C's job is, and it's ultimately creating longevity for the athletes.
Yep. Absolutely. It's the best thing we can give them.
That's because so if we're thinking about jobs, right? Say a surgeon, he relies on his hands, right? If he doesn't have his hands working properly, he's not getting paid, right? Athletes, that's a job. If their body isn't working properly, they're not getting money.
Mm-hmm.
So our role is how can we extend their tools over the longest period possible. Now, different sports have different longevities.
Sure.
That's just sport. But it's like they rely on their bodies. So what we can do is we can extend their contracts by making them fit enough to do their work. So S&C is no longer this high performance thing, but it's like how can we extend their life span in their sport? Like how do we get to the fundamentals of like what body bodily development is so that they can extend their contracts.
Yeah, and understand how to better live life. Like as a female, one of the biggest indicators for us for longevity is muscle mass. So how are we not breaking down these cultural stereotypes of like women need to be these like small, tiny, invisible things? No, it's cool. I can take up space. I can have a little bit of muscle on my body. It's okay. It doesn't make me a man. It doesn't make me manly. It doesn't make me gross. Like my clothes fit great. Like I'm in a great spot, but I think that it's a lot of it is cultural as well. And I think that that's a whole other side of things that I don't, that's a rabbit hole we don't have time for. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot to be said about the way that what we do is perceived across, like you're saying, across like language barriers, across other things, that there are places that have no idea what it is that we've broken into when it comes to feeding into not only the health and longevity of the person that we're working with, like as an athlete, but giving them the skills or giving them the opportunity to express their skill better because they've got that skill. That talent that they've got is God given. How can we help them express it either better, longer, safer, combination of the three? We know that, like we talked about, health over performance. If they're not healthy, they got no hope to perform. So how can we help give them that for longer?
Yeah, no, that's how I've been looking at things now. It's like that's why I was so keen on developing the 4 to 11-year-old program, because like if we start then, they're gonna be fucking machines. Like, and then again, sport doesn't get paid apart from football, soccer, rugby. I think that's really it. Like no other sport really gets paid.
But who gives a shit if you can stand up off the toilet when you're 90 by yourself because you've instilled great habits and great movement patterns? So, like, to me, it's about life. This has nothing to do. Training and learning how to train and learning how to take care of your body and function has very little to do with sport and so much more to do with your health and longevity and your quality of life moving forward. You want to be able to pick up your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews. You want to be able to, you want to be the one that helps your mom get up and down out of bed when she's 90 years old and, whatever it is? Of course. Like, we all want to be functional. We all want to be capable human beings. I haven't ever met one person that's like, yeah, you know what? I hope I can't stand up by myself if I fall when I get older. And you're like, no, nobody wants that. So it's about living and about instilling the habits. Yeah, being better people, instilling the qualities and the habits in a physical way and in a mental way, right? We know that it's good for our brains to do things we don't necessarily want to do, right? Call it discipline, call it motivation, whatever it is. We know it helps I think it's like acingular cortex, I want to say. Anyway, somebody's going to have to fact check me on those things, but we know that it's good for parts of our brain when we do hard things or when we do difficult things or when we challenge ourselves, when we push ourselves. It is good for our brains and it helps us. So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we be doing that?
100%. Coach AK, thank you so much for coming in and
My guy.
spending some time with me. If you can sort of let people know where they can find you, ask questions, and sort of learn a little bit more of what you've got going on.
Sure. Legitimately only Instagram. That is the only place I'm on right now. That's the only place you're going to find me because, as we know, I am horrendous at answering emails. Oh, there's my page. Look at it. So Ashley Kovaleski is my actual handle because that is my actual name. But that's me. Ta-da! Other than that, good luck. I hope nobody ever finds me outside of that. You will not find me in the wild. Not outside of Instagram unless you see me in a competition.
No, appreciate you so much. And check her out. She is awesome.
Thanks, my dude. Appreciate you always. You do great with this thing.
I do try. Peace.